Okay, ready?
Yes, we are live now. You can.
Okay. Okay.
Tanvir, you're muted.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Akil Rashid, Research and Knowledge Hub Chief at Jkpi, and I'll be introducing the vision and intention of the special initiative to you on behalf of the team at Jkpi. The Expert Talk series is a special initiative of the Jammu and Kashmir Policy Institute, wherein we seek to source inputs and recommendations from experts in various fields pertaining to different sustainable development goals through one-on-one dialogues. As an organization, JKPI believes in multi-stakeholder dialogues as one of the most important components in building a shared vision for development in Jammu and Kashmir. And true to our faith in the same, we have initiated this series to engage experts, change makers, pioneers from various walks of life to understand the dynamic context of implementing the sustainable development goals on our agenda. Every week for this 1 month, we'll hold deliberation and dialogue on SDG 5, gender equality, and we seek to host experts who would share with us on the different dimensions of the challenge and possibilities while drawing from their own rich repertoire of experiences in the field. We believe that personal stories of passionate pursuit of goals, research on addressed gaps, and efforts to be a part of the change is a very big aspect of development in action at an individual level. We are hopeful that these stories would inspire many people over the following weeks. So, without further ado, allow me to now introduce our our speaker who will be talking to us on the topic role of civil society organizations in achieving gender equality, Zamruda Khande. Zamruda has 20 plus years of experience of working and researching on issues of women and violence. She has a specialization in the area of armed conflict and communalism within India and the refugees from Afghanistan. Her work has been primarily to look at how conflict plays a role in women's lives, especially within and outside the realm of their reproductive health. Currently, she is heading a social kindness platform called AdBees, where they are trying to advocate for a kinder world for all. On behalf of the entire team of JKPI, I welcome you tonight. Now, I would like to pass on the mantle to Tanveer Lone, our facilitator for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Akil. Thank you so much for introducing our speaker for tonight's talk series. And thank you, Zamurda ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us here, sharing your insights. Okay, so as we all know, this is the expert talk series, week 2. Last week, we discussed with a few industry experts, and now this time we have with us Zamruda Khande. Akil has introduced the guest for tonight's talk series. So thank you, Zamrudaji. Thank you once again for joining us today. So as we are talking on the CSO. So as we all are aware that CSOs play a pioneer role in driving change in the society, where multiple research have shown that the role in achieving gender equality has not been described much. It has not been discussed much as other topics which are of utmost importance. So with the aim to explore the realm, I would like to start today's deliberation, but at what could be the best start by having an introduction from the speaker yourself. So I would request you to share about the kindness platform AdBees that you lead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Tanveer. Thank you, Akil, for this kind introduction. So as Akil said, I've been working for almost more than 20 years now. I started my education at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which is where I got introduced to the whole concept of social kindness and social work. Right from the beginning, I was interested in women's issues and health and reproductive health. I am from Kashmir. My parents, my grandparents, we are Kashmiris, born and brought up, not brought up, born here. My father left the valley for his education. So we've been out for many, many years. So I studied mainly in Delhi and then moved on to Mumbai, after which I've lived in many parts of India and many parts of the world. Currently, I reside in Mumbai. My work has always been, as I said, women in health. And I think at some point, late in 1998, 99, when the insurgency in Kashmir was at its peak and health issues, and especially women's health, was something which was completely neglected, is the time when I got an opportunity. And that was the first time actually I worked in Kashmir. And I still remember a lot of people back then told me, do you really realize what you're doing? You're 28 years old, you're young, halat bahut kharab hain Kashmir mein. Are you sure you want to go back there and work there? I still remember some people told me that, even if your project doesn't do well, it's okay. Let's see. And I think it was with the assurance of those people and the belief of those people that I did come into the valley. Of course, I've always come as a child every summer, but I think that experience of actually living here for 6 months and doing in-depth research was something which completely changed my mind and thinking. And I think that's where my actual work began. Since then, I've never stopped. It has always been women's health and especially reproductive health. Since then, I've done I think almost 3 research projects in Kashmir on different aspects. I was lucky to be associated with research organizations who were willing to help and support my work, in spite of not many people being allowed to come in and work at that back then. I have to say I was very lucky. Having moved from there, because I was in Mumbai, my work also continued from Mumbai, and did a lot of work on communal issues and the research on communal issues. But somewhere, I think after a point, you do reach a stage in life when you want to look at larger aspects. Research is something which is very dear to me. But I think I had reached a point where I wanted to do something else. And that is when I started looking around. And I have to say again, luck was in my favor, and I got the opportunity to head an I'm sorry if I say organization, but head a company called 8Bs. It is the world's first social kindness platform where we are trying to make a change in the society by trying to bring in the thought that every person can make a difference in life. Every person wants to and is always wanting to do something special, something different to help others, but may necessarily not have the opportunity or the knowledge of how to do it. So we're trying to make 8Bs a platform where you can come in and make a difference with whatever little you have, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's just by sharing a story of your kindness or of a kindness that you've heard somebody else do. 8Bs believes very firmly that if you are willing to share today something that you have done, it will start a movement which will inspire others to do kindness also. It's a very new setup. We've just been live since January. Most of you may not know about it. I would seriously encourage everybody to look at it. But yes, 8Bs is something where we believe that we can make a kinder world together. And I have to say, it ties up very well with today's topic, because we see 8Bs as a community which can make a change.
Thank you so much for sharing the nice, lucky, and long journey with us, and getting the maximum out of the very little you have. It's really inspiring, and everyone should follow these steps. Okay, so how the idea to establish such a platform came to you?
It's a very interesting story. In fact, it's inspired by a 14-year-old person called Tanushri Kumar. She's the daughter of our founder. So Tanushri, back 2 years ago, wanted to actually do something, and she and her friends got together and tried to look for opportunities and ways in which they could contribute and make a difference in life. And which is when they realized that it was not as easy as they thought, that, you know, if today I just have 200 rupees and I want to donate it, I may necessarily not find a place where I can donate it. Or say if I have, it's my summer holidays, I have time, I may not want to go out in the sun and do something, physically help an organization, but I may want to help somebody sitting at home. So different ways of wanting to help, they were not able to find. And this is the question that actually landed us where we are today with 8Ps. So what we tried to do over the last 1 year now, we tried to bring together a place where if one wanted to donate even 100 rupees, one could do that without having to find a cause, without having to find a certain something that's going on. 8Bs has a place where you can come and look at different NGOs and different organizations which are doing a lot of good work. And at any point in time, at any amount of money you can donate. But other than that, what we really inspire is that people come and share what they do. As I said earlier also, that sharing is what we're really concentrating on, because we really do believe in the fact that the more you talk about it, the more you advocate what you're doing. I'm not saying go Dhindora Pito. No, I'm not saying that. But because normally when people do something kind and good, there is this whole mindset that if we talk too much about it, people will think कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा अपना ही गुण गा रहे हैं. We are not trying to do that. That's not. So it's a fine line where you try to, we still are struggling with how to break that barrier of you are not going overboard with what you're doing and you're not trying to blow your own trumpet. But we do believe, as I said, I keep repeating it, that the more we share, the more we inspire people. And that's how 8Bs has come about.
That's really a nice story behind the 8Bs. So the name of the platform really seems interesting to me. Is there any story behind it?
Yes, of course. So again, it's aid, of course, to help in whichever manner. And Bs is that we're trying to build a community. And that's why I said it ties up so beautifully with what you are trying to do today, the whole panel today. It's basically essentially trying to get a community together which believes in doing good, which believes in being kind in life.
Okay, so now moving forward to the CSOs, I would like to dig into the role of CSOs at the community level. So why their relevance preference is of so much importance?
Can you say that again? I didn't look it.
Yeah, I would like to take a dig into the role of CSOs at the community level and why their presence is so important.
So to me, civil society is even a group of two people. It's two people and more. When I look at civil society, I wouldn't want to stay away from civil society organization. I know it goes together. But personally, I would say any effort where a group of people are trying to get together and bring a change is civil society organization. Why is it important? Because there are many a times when people are not able to clearly see a path ahead. People are not able enough to see where they can go. One often gets blindsided, and it could be many things. It could be whether it's your education, whether it's your monetary situation, whether it is even the fact where you just live. By default, where you are born, by default, where you've landed up in life. It could be any kind of situation you are, but things can blindfold you. And at that point in time, if you get help from somebody, and that is where the action of civil society CSOs come in. To me, that is a CSO. It's not necessarily a big organization. It's not an NGO. I mean, of course, they're all part of it, but that's where it starts. The fact that somebody collectively can guide you, can guide a group of people, can make a change, a thought, can start a single thought which can then lead to a larger change. And if that is not there, then we would just keep thinking in the way that we are born with. The ideas and the thoughts that we have learned. I'm not saying what we've learned is wrong or is incorrect, but not necessarily it is the way which is required to be today. There is always a depth in understanding what is more, what is available out there, what more can be gained. And that can be done by civil society organizations.
Yeah, and that's really a simple but beautiful definition of the CSO. Thank you so much for defining it so beautifully. Okay, one important institution that we cannot miss is the state itself. If we see the relation of the CSOs with the state, it's of two types. One, by assisting the efforts of the state, and secondly, by building the required force on the state to take appropriate steps when it's not willing to. Okay, how do you see this relation?
See, I've worked for 20 years, both at grassroots levels and at policy level. And I have to say that whatever situation we may be in, whatever situation a country is in, one cannot isolate CSOs from the government, especially in our country, because of the size of our country, because of the vast, be it the latitude, altitude, tropics, forests. I mean, our country is huge. And if at any point in time, we think that we can do it all alone, whether it is the CSO or the government, I think it's not fair on either one of us. A coalition is definitely needed. How that coalition will work is something to be thought through, of course. But definitely without a coalition between the CSO and the government, work is, I mean, something that can be achieved. To me, in my mind, not even 10% of it is achievable. The efficiency of a CSO versus the power and reach of the government together can enhance that efficiency. That's been my personal experience. I'm okay with people when they say, no, the government is defunct or the CSOs are defunct, nobody wants to work. A lot of work is being done and a lot of work needs to be done. But for me, definitely that coalition is very important. And this is not only between government and CSO, even within the civil service organizations. I feel there is so much need for them to work together. Like, we have so many groups, we have so many different groups all across the country that at times one really wonders that why is it that one area has 20 organizations working on the same issues? Is it a time and thought to look through that can they all come together and work together? Because if you're working for this in the same area, same resources, same people, same target group, then how is it that then organizations work in isolation? So for me, it's very important coalition within the CSOs and a coalition between government and CSOs.
Okay, that's quite a good answer. So is there any suggestion from your side that how can we stronger the relationship between the CSO and the government? Any suggestion from your side?
I'm too small for any suggestions, but as I said, there is a need for coalition. It's not easy. Again, as I said, considering our constitutional structure, our federal structure, our unitary, I mean, you name any structure of the politics systems that we follow in our country, then the language, the region, the dialects. I mean, we have so many barriers if we want to count the barriers. There is no dearth of it. I mean, sitting in Kashmir, it's amazing how many dialects, even within Kashmir, we have. I was in Tulip Garden the other day, and my father pointed out, he said, "Oh, most of the people here are from Baramulla." And I was surprised that, he could even make out, sitting in Srinagar, he could make out each dialect. So the differences are so huge. If one wants to count the differences, there are many ways of doing it. But for me, I think there is time and a place for us to put these differences away and start collating with each other. Otherwise, our efforts, our resources, they're just going waste. They're completely going waste because we are not at policy level looking at how we can make best use of what we have. It's time that we have a lot more thinking on how actually make the best of what we have, rather than seeing who can make the best of what we have.
Okay, so now, from your own experience, can you share with us the role of CSOs in ensuring gender justice from your own experience?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it here. I know the justice hasn't even been met yet. But Kunan Pushpur, sorry, I'm like going back. Okay. The case of the rape cases way back in 1990s of Kunan Pushpura is something I think where the role of CSOs is huge. There was a point in time when not many people even knew about it. I mean, I know I was young. I don't know about you guys, how old you guys were, but when that incidents took place, I was barely 22, 23. And it was much later that even I heard about it, considering I was working in this area. One barely heard about it till very recently. Till recently, when the women's group in Kashmir got together, the entire case was reopened. The government was forced to look at it. And it's not that there hadn't been enough written about it. Amnesty had talked about it. Human rights groups had talked about it. The government had printed reports of it. So it's not that it wasn't, but all these reports circulated within one circle, right? It was in the circles, it moved around, and then it was done away with. Nobody knew what happened to it. Nobody was bothered. So it almost took, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, my memory now is a little lost on exact dates, but I think it was almost 15 to 20 years later that the case was reopened. And the case was reopened just because of the efforts of certain CSOs. And I have to congratulate them. Unfortunately, I don't think even justice has been met yet. But it is by the sheer dent of those people, those few researchers and the organization who really made it happen. I don't think I can see a much better example than that.
Yeah, thank you. So in your previous point, you mentioned the need of CSOs to work together. So is there anything lagging the communication between the CSOs? Like one CSO is doing research on the same topic, the another CSO is doing research on the same topic, which may create repetition of effort from the manpower.
Unfortunately, I think it's just human nature. I think we need to make the issue larger than the organization. We need to, at some point, come to a senses where we realize that the issue at hand is bigger, and we need to come to that mindset that no matter what, we will fight for that issue. If we are able to attain that level of thinking and understanding, I think then we will not even have 10 organizations working on the same issue. Because to my mind, I don't see a need for it. For 10, I mean, just think about the resources, just whether it is monetary resources, whether it's manpower, you name it, are going waste because it's the same people working on the same issues. For what? Why are we not able to put it together? It's a question, I think it's a question which has been around for so many years, but as I said, it's something which needs a much larger thinking, which needs for people to be able to rise above themselves and then come together. I really don't know whether we'll be able to achieve that, but there's definitely sense and there is definitely need to do it.
So we can have light at the tunnel.
We
So
should,
what?
I mean, definitely, if we try, why not? I mean, there is.
So we can expect.
We should expect, I would say. I mean, I would not give up hope. I would definitely. I mean, I know as a researcher, I could not have written, I could not have worked if I had not correlated with. So I'll give you my example. When I came to Kashmir for a research, the research was to look at women's health issues during the conflict, right? And this, I'm talking of the year 2000. Now, in the year 2000 in Kashmir, I don't have to tell you people, but I would, let me tell it to the audience that back then in Kashmir, it was just the tertiary hospitals which used to work. And Kashmir, even today, just has one reproductive health hospital, which is the Lal Ded. I'm talking of government hospitals, and back then it was just the government hospital. Apart from that, there were no hospitals, there were no dispensaries, there were no nursing homes. And I can tell you this as a I can confirm you this was happening because I've been here in those days. I've been to Bargam, to Kupwara, you name it, and I've been to the little dispensaries, to the doctors, to the hospital. I've tried being everywhere back then. I initially did try for the lack of knowledge, for lack of anything. I used to go travel, try and meet doctors alone, try and do things. In 2 weeks, I realized I can't do it. There is no way I'll be able to do my research. I'll be able to talk to anybody if I do not collate with someone. And that's when then I started looking around for people. I started seeing if there are organizations which are working. Of course, back then there were not many. I was lucky. I got through to organizations using their resources, and resources, I don't mean monetary, but their connects, their reaching, their point of contact. I was able to conduct my research. Honestly speaking, I wouldn't have been able to meet even one person back then hadn't I collated, hadn't I gotten in touch with these organizations, and I have to thank them. My work happened just because of that. So I firmly believe, had I said, no, I'll do it on my own, I'll be better off doing it, I don't think my research would have taken off. I still remember I went to Lal Ded Hospital and I said, I will do it from Lal Ded Hospital. Maternity health hai, I have to interview people. Believe me, I couldn't do it. Just standing in that hospital back then and looking at the state of people there, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand in that hospital. Forget anything else. 28-year-old, barely knew any Kashmiri. I mean, I speak the language, but I'm not fluent in it. I stood there and I looked around and I was like, I was in tears. I came home and I had to rethink my entire methodology. I had to rethink how I was going to do it. I still remember redoing my entire methodology because I had very theoretically written, I'll approach this doctor, I'll approach this hospital, I'll do this, I'll do that. Nothing, everything went out. Because if I hadn't teamed up with other organizations, I couldn't have done anything. So I believe in it, and that's a learning from my own experience. And since then, I have continued my work like that and been very successful.
It's really nice to hear from you. So moving on to policymakers now. So how can policymakers play a role in advancing and assisting the efforts of CSOs in achieving their vision of positive change?
Honestly, I'm quite dumbfounded out here, because for me, I seriously believe that when we're looking at policies, when we're looking at making policies, one really needs to, first of all, ensure that people who are making policies are people who have, I would not only say knowledge, but who have actually in-depth knowledge. And when I say in-depth knowledge, I mean people who have actually been in the field, people who have actually, any kind of field, and I'm not talking of gaon mein jaake ka, at different levels, but you need to know your field of work. You need to know what you're talking about, because without that kind of insight, if you haven't been there, as I said, just by studying books, please, I'm not saying do not study books, do not read books, but if you haven't been in touch with reality, if you haven't seen what actually goes day to day, what can change in a matter of minutes, what can happen when you're out there. I mean, my experience has been very conflicted situations, whether it's been Kashmir or it's been Mumbai. The kind of scenarios in which I have worked, things change overnight. And if I don't have experiences of those, if I haven't myself experienced that, how am I going to make a policy? So I always say this, that before we think of making policy, before we are actually getting into it, one needs to get to feel, one needs to get their hands dirty. If one has that experience, I think any policy will work. If a policy is made with that clarity, with that kind of knowledge, it will work. So my thing with policymakers, and I'm very small and very little to be giving advice to them, to policymakers of our country, but my sincere request, or whatever you may want to call it, is that one should get their hands dirty.
Thank you. So before we move ahead, we have our director at Jkpi, Sohini, who has a question for you. Sohini, please.
Ideally, I shouldn't be, hopping in between the facilitation, but I couldn't do this.
No, please.
So I just wanted to learn from your experiences that being a grassroots practitioner myself, a woman working on the ground with grassroots community, I know that you have a lot of experience with it. I would love for you to reflect for our audience the scope of more women bringing in a gendered perspective to problems, core social problems that civil society organizations are looking to handle. And by that, I don't necessarily that it is only certain gender issues that we're talking about, but to bring in the gendered perspective to many issues which are not looked upon in that light. And to a great extent, that affects the way we are looking at, like the holistic way in which we are looking to also influence policy in the long run. So your comments on it, ma'am.
See, I could be very cocky here and say that women can do it better than anybody else, but no, that's not how policies or equality works. If we're talking of equality, if we're talking of gender, then it has to be on equal parts. Now, when we say equal, it does not mean that the woman and the man have to be on the same path, because we know what women, especially in India, have gone through or are still going through. So that equality is very far away. Keeping that in mind, that we're really far away from reaching a point where we can say that this man and this woman have to be dealt equally, for me is very, very far away. Even now, I don't think in any class, anywhere have we reached that level that we can safely say, okay, let's put all this away. They can all be treated equally. Hence, for me, as important as it is to have a man's view, it is important to have a woman's view. Would I want to give them more? Would I want to give more weightage to women's view versus man's view? Why not? For the simple reason, if I look at myself, I run a house, I do a job, I'm bringing up my 2 children, and I'm doing it all. Can I say that I'm going to be very personal, I hope my husband doesn't mind it, but does my husband do it as well? I don't know. I don't think so. Hence, I would say I should have a little more right of speaking when I have a viewpoint in terms of managing. I'm just making it very micro to my family. And I'm saying that when it comes to, in my family, taking decisions, I'm not saying we do not have equality. In fact, we all 4 have equal rights in the house. But from the experience that maybe I have, where I can cook, I can clean, I can do my job, and I can run the house, and I can do all of that, all that multitasking that I can do, I think I can expect a little more weightage to my opinion. I'm making very light of it because, that's me. And I would like to broaden that also to our society, to our policies, that if a woman is able to do this, and this is for every woman, whether she works just from home or just for the house, or she's going out like me, or the 1,000 of women who work around me, they all are juggling on a daily basis and doing a fantastic job of it. Please, I'm not saying men are not doing a fantastic job, but considering we have more exposure, we're able to deal with multifaceted situations in a day, which we're able to solve quite efficiently. By just that dent, I think we deserve a little more weightage. I don't know if I've answered your question. If not, let me know. But as I said, I would like to keep it a little light. And is that okay?
You've actually answered the question in a very new way, because you've kept that hope and aspiration alive of the fact that, the whole idea that why women deserve to be listened to more in policy making and in guiding policy, even from the civil society space. And I love the fact that you actually took it at the micro level, because it helps us understand where you're coming from. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tanveer, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sohini. Okay, so now moving ahead, moving to the challenge faced by the CSOs. So what are the challenges faced by CSOs in performing their work? We know that funding is one of the major issues, major challenge faced by the CSOs. But I would like to present a broader picture to our audience and touch upon the challenge that usually stay away from the common eyes, from the common eye of man.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't get the last bit of it.
Yes, I would like to I would like you to present a broader picture to our audience and touch upon the challenge that usually stay away from the picture of a common man.
Stay away from the, sorry, I think there's a connection.
Basically, which stay hidden from the common eyes.
Okay, sorry. Actually, I don't think anything stays hidden away, but so as I said, CSOs to me is any collective which is more than two people. And as Tanveer said, that funding is one of the main issues. And here I would like to say something, one of the things that we often hear is that we are willing to support an NGO or a CSO or an organization, but we will only support the work. So if we are supporting 100 children's education, that 100 children's education, if I'm willing to give ₹1,00,000 for 100 children to be educated, it should go only to those 100 children, which is great. But what people don't understand is that who's going to work? Who's going to ensure it? This has been my biggest challenge in my work over the years, that we're very happy to donate, but with a condition कि वो पैसा उन्हीं 100 बच्चों को जाना चाहिए और ₹1 भी कहीं और नहीं जाना चाहिए. But how are we supposed to work? How is a grassroots level worker supposed to earn his or her daily bread? Who is going to pay for his salaries? Where does his salary come from? And if he doesn't have money to feed himself or take home to his or her family, how are we expecting people to work? This is a challenge. I think this is one of the biggest challenges, more than funding. To me, when the funding comes, it comes with these strings attached. I'm not saying that we are going to misuse the money. Please don't get me wrong. But there has to be an allocation when we are, as a funder, as a donor, when we are thinking of donating money, when we're thinking of doing that deed of helping 100 children, we have to bear in our minds that it needs effort. Who's identifying those children? Who's ensuring the money goes to those children? There needs to be money out of that. If you're giving ₹1,00,000, you have to ensure X percentage of that money goes to the organization so that those people who are working can work. A lot of CSOs fail to work because of this reason. They're not able to provide salaries. And, way back, I still remember, this was in Kupwara. And I still remember I had gone with an organization there and we were interviewing, I happened to be there, but the people I went with, they were interviewing for a computer teacher. And Kupwara is really far flung from the city. To be even able to get a computer teacher out there was huge. Now this computer teacher asked for a certain amount of money, a salary, and the organization was not able to pay. So the organization had its issues, and so whatever. So if he was asking for 10,000, the organization said 5,000. I'm sitting there and watching this negotiation going on, and I still remember coming back. So as the negotiations went on, the person said to the organization head that if I am not able to feed myself, how do you expect me to come and teach over here? I cannot do charity if my pockets are not, if my stomach is not full. And I remember this till date. Because for me, this was so important that if I'm not able to feed my staff, if my staff is not satiated with their basic needs, how do I expect them to come and work? And I still remember coming back and having this discussion where I had said to the organization that if I was in your place, I would hire that person. For the simple reason that he was so keen to work, but he was very clear in his mind कि अगर मुझे इतना नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि मैं इससे कम में जी ही नहीं पाऊंगा, 10,000 रुपए अगर मुझे नहीं मिलेंगे तो मैं काम ही नहीं कर पाऊंगा, तो मैं कैसे काम करूंगा? So that is something I think something that the CSOs face on a daily basis. So the financial crunch is not only of not getting donation, it is what donations are allotted for. It's my personal view. I may be completely, I don't know if that is what Tanveer was looking for, but Tanveer, that has been my experience, that fundings, even when they come, are not allotted the way they should be allotted.
So that's really an important issue that you have highlighted and speak about. So we have an interruption from the audience. We have a question. Just let me read it out. So there has been a lot of debate regarding including the gender lens in funding, planning, etc. But at the same time, it has been observed that we lack trained manpower who is capable to do so. How can we bridge the gap?
I'm not understanding. Are we saying that women are not trained? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Just wait. Just wait. Let me.
So what I'm understanding, let me just put it there. If the question is saying that there are not enough women trained in certain fields, if women are not, if you're not, so there are, I think now pretty much there are not, I would say, honestly, I don't know very many fields where women are not equally well trained. There may be a reason why you're not finding women trained in a certain manner in certain places, and that is also our issue that we need to sort out. But having said that, if one is not able to find women who are suitably trained for a job, I do not advocate that you give it to any woman. On a personal level, I don't see that as a gender equality where a woman just gets a job because she's a woman. No, that would be unfair. Again, that's my personal opinion. I would advocate and very strongly advocate that a quota for women reservation, I have no issues with, but it should not be filled by people, by women who are not qualified for that job. If that was the question, if that's how I understood, that's my view on it.
Yeah, we have with us our junior research fellow Jigyasa, who wants to add something to this question.
Sure.
Jigyasa, please.
Thank you, Tanveer, and thank you, ma'am, for this enriching discussion. I would just try to rephrase the entire question because I'm handling the FA part, so let me just do that part. So the question
Could
is
you be a
regarding that
little
many
louder?
times
Sorry, there's a lot of background noise.
Yes, sure, ma'am.
So a little louder, please.
Okay, ma'am. Is it audible now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So, ma'am, the question basically says that we know that not just in civil society organization, but in all the organization, we have been emphasizing that how we need to put a genderless lens in terms of planning, or say when you are designing the budget itself. But many times we also see that we do not have those people who are capable enough to actually apply that methodology, because they are not just aware of this thing, because they are very much trained in the traditional approaches. So how can we fill this gap between the need of having such approaches, but at the same time not having people who are capable enough to actually apply the same thing? I hope I'm clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Jigyasa, I answered that if we do not have, if we genuinely with all our efforts have not been able to find capable people, trained capable people for that particular role, then I think it's fine. I mean, To me, I would hire somebody who's capable than just fill a gender or suitability. I would not, on a personal level, I would not go in for taking a woman just because it's a seat reserved for a woman. I would want somebody, I would wait, I would try my best to find somebody who fits that qualification and that capability of that job. How one can do it, as I said, it's not easy for various reasons over generations. It's not been easier. But again, as I said, I would not be comfortable giving out a job to somebody just because of their gender. And it should not be so. I would rather maybe leave it open. I don't know. I mean, again, these are very situational issues. Can we take somebody who's a little less qualified and then train them? That's one way of also looking at it. Can we get in somebody who can train somebody who we may find could do that job? See, educational qualification may not be everything also. So there has to be a mix of things. I mean, I can give you my personal experience again. I really don't know, the job that I'm doing today. It has various aspects, and I'm heading the organization. It's been a learning curve for all of us in the organization, in the place, in 8Bs. And maybe if it was strictly by qualifications, I may not have gotten that job. But I'm sure my boss saw something more, and that's why I am there. I've been there a year, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I've learned a lot along the way, a lot. And I keep telling everybody in my workplace that it's been such a huge learning curve. So there are different ways of looking at things when we're hiring people. So education qualification is not the only criteria, I would say. Of course, as most jobs need to have that minimum qualification, you need to satisfy, unfortunately, certain things. But beyond that, I think there are times one also needs to look at the holistic picture. Can somebody else do it? Can we train somebody else to do it? So a whole lot of things can be done around it, can be worked around.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are running out of time because we have a lot of questions from our social media platforms. So I would like to take one question. So there's someone, Samreen, asking, there's myth if simply that women cannot be leaders. There are many women-led organizations, and since you yourself lead a platform, have you observed any differences in terms of reaction of people when they have to deal with a woman leader or at community level when you go out to conduct research?
I've had lots of experiences, but it hasn't been because I was a woman. It has been because of where I was when I was. I think even if a man had been where I was, would have had similar experiences. Having worked in Kashmir, there were times when I was asked to not continue my work because they wanted to verify who I was, wanted to verify my credentials, etc., etc. And I don't think that was because I was a woman. Had there been a male colleague, he would have gone through the same thing. Do people look at me differently? Yes, unfortunately, even now, when you say you're a CEO, you're leading an organization, you do get all of that. It's unfortunate because I've had those experiences where people have looked around and said, "Oh, really? You had an organization? Oh, really? You're a CEO?" Just so be it. I am, and I'm proud of it, and I'm doing a good job, and I take it in my stride. there are times, and I'll be honest, there are times when you do feel a bit you'd have your moments. It's not that I'm a human being and I have my moments, and it does pull me down. There have been enough times it has pulled me down. But I'm proud of it. I've deserved and I've worked very hard, and I think I deserve it. So I go with that belief. If I didn't deserve it, I wouldn't be where I am. I'm not here because somebody's done me a favor. I didn't even know the person who's hired me. We met. He liked what they liked what they saw. They admire my work, and hence I am here where I am. And yeah, I have my work to speak for. But it's not easy. Yes, it's not very easy. Men get it. I mean, you say you're a CEO. I don't think people really look at you and say, "Ooh, how did you make it?" We still have a long way to go.
So we can relate it, not a good picture for
No,
women leaders out there.
I think we have to fight harder, and it's not good. It's not fine. But I wouldn't stop fighting, and I wouldn't ask people to stop fighting just because it's harder. No, why should we? We deserve it. As I said, I deserve every. I mean, I was the first researcher to come and work in Kashmir. As I said earlier, I still remember people telling me, "You've lost your mind. Do you know where you're going?" I mean, I came here. How many people, even now, if you turn around and look at qualitative research, there's very little work. I worked. So I am where I am. Sorry, I'm being a bit.
Yeah, so it's all right. So as we are running out of time, we have just a few minutes, unfortunately. So I'd like to pass the mantle to Sohini, ma'am, who will present the vote of thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanveer. Thank you, everyone, for coming together for this wonderful and enriching session. Thank you, Zamruda ji. It's an honor to have you on our platform to learn from you and your vast experience. It's women like you who inspire us every day to do what is unthinkable and to actually take the challenge and go ahead and try it out, no matter how far you're able to go, but you know that you're creating the path for someone else. So as a young researcher who has just started working in Kashmir, women like you are absolute inspiration. It's like, maybe it's because once upon a time you actually had the courage to go ahead and uh, try to do some work as much as you could. It's that generations after, there are many people who are following in your footsteps, as I would say. So thank you so much for joining us, for taking the time to share with us about your experiences, to throw some light on these different confusing questions which we come across every day, all these different concepts and all the challenges and all the dimensions to what actually achieving SDG 5 looks like. So as you rightly said, it's a long way ahead. We have to fight harder. We promise to keep going, and we hope to keep in touch. And should we have more questions which you could not take up in the session, we would be sending the questions to you via email.
No worries.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a good night.
Thank you, all of you, and thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure. And
Thank you, ma'am. We wish you all the best.
thank you so much, and thank all the best to all of you. Thank you.